Hello and welcome to another edition of Trigger Point Research Setups. We're going to talk about a stock that is potentially breaking down here, and actually something that we talked about earlier in the week. On this video series we talk about stocks that have the opportunity to either break up or break down. We talk about the setups, not the actual move, because we want to kind of give you an advanced understanding of what we're looking at. In fact, we did give our subscribers at triggerpointresearch.com the alert last week on McDonald's, and that was a short alert. And basically, we did also follow it up recently with an article on triggerpointresearch.com, and you can see right here. It was on the 18th of July. We talked about how market volatility was what was going on, and we had a whole list of potential breaking down setups. And on here, you'll notice that we have McDonald's right here. So we're going to talk about that today. McDonald's came out with earnings, and it was a disappointment. But when you look at the chart, we clearly see that there is a very, very defined, a downtrend that you can notice without any kind of question. Clearly, we see that the downtrend that is existing right now from about the 102, and we can kind of see that that's a continual amount of lower highs and higher lows. Not a big range. We're talking about a 2% range, not entirely dramatic, but at the same time, we are seeing that it wasn't a downtrend, and it was a change of dynamic overall. If you look at the overall stock and you see that, well, there was a range between about 102 and probably about, we'll call it 98, that it was trading in between, and when it was looking to possibly break in or out of that level, that was the time to get involved in this stock. But let's take a look at this a little bit differently, the way we look at it. And we'll take a look at the daily first and take a look at our, what we call our altimeter. We have a new name for this because it's on the TradeStation Strategy Network. But you take a look at this and you'll see that it clearly broke down below the level that was a real potential problem area. You see that it had done this before, and once it broke down here and it broke down at 99, every time it did that, it continued to move lower. And then you saw the obvious buyers step in, and there was clearly a level that was somewhat of support down about 96 and change. Now, it broke down today. It's down about 2.5% overall. And when you look at where it is now, why did it stop at 97.61? What we're trying to do here is show you some tools that you can use and some real technical reasons to say, okay, well, that makes sense. But let's find out why. Take a look at the weekly for a second, and let's zoom in on the weekly a little bit. And you'll notice that that same chart showing the volume at price distribution, where you're seeing that the significant amount of support is right where the stock is. So there's no surprise on what happened there, because we're looking at a long-term move on the stock that broke out from about 86 back in about November of last year and moved all the way up to about 102, and now what we're seeing is this again, even on a weekly basis, a downtrend that exists all the way here from about 102 to about 97. Now, interestingly, this is a large cap quality stock, but the fact is that patterns are patterns, and what we're seeing now is the potential for the bulls trying to hold this up, thinking that maybe things are much better in the future, but in fact that we're seeing that below this level there's a real problem. Putting on our radar and looking at this, you can notice, as we've talked about in past discussions, that when you see that in the area of the distribution right all the way down to about 90, there's really not much. And even when you look back, and we look back at the, I guess we could say, the early last year levels, and you look back to here, there's really not anything supportive in this whole range all the way down. So the target for this would be theoretically 90 if we're looking at this on a weekly basis. Okay, but if we're looking at this on a shorter basis, let's take a look. So now what we're talking about is on a daily basis. On a daily basis, if we can zoom out a little bit here, you'll see the same kind of pattern, but there's really nothing between, I would say, about 98 all the way down to about 95. There's some support also at about 94.5, but really you're looking at about the level of 91 when you kind of look across and you see where the other distributions are. About 90, 91 is also being confirmed as the potential drop point where you'd want to look at picking it up if it did get down to that level. Now, moving even closer in, talking about a 60-minute chart, there is support going back to the 25th at about the 97 level, where it came down to at the low here today. If you see where the low is about 97, which coincides with a look back area. So bottom line is that you want to take a look at the Trigger Point Research website, because we do have a few new things, the potential breaking up and breaking down setups that are there as well, that we're following up with these videos. Anyway, we'll see you soon. Thanks for joining me. We have lots more to discuss this week. Make sure to subscribe to the Trigger Point videos on YouTube, or just come to the site and sign up for a free trial.